Hello, everybody. Well, it's really nice to see all of you here. Thank you for coming. And thank you to Alfan and Demet for organizing this. It's such a pleasure to be sitting here with you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you guys for making this dream come true.
Well, I mean, first of all, what can I say? When I first heard your music, I was blown away. The opportunity to sit here and speak with you, I thought, let me get really deep into it. And how I got really into her music was while I was working here in the studio in Istanbul. I was blasting the music full volume. I was painting, I was working on ceramics, and really it just transported me. One of the connections that I first had to Anatolian music, Anatolian rock, was a really important artist and singer from Turkey named Selda. How do you pronounce her last name?
Zelda is right.
Bacha,
Selda
right?
Baca.
And her song Yaz Gatechi Yaz is a very important song that I think many people from Turkey recognize and understand. And it's powerful. Her voice is powerful. The energy there, really, I feel like when I heard your music, it really connected me to this deep history. And as we were speaking earlier, it's like this 4,000-year-old melting pot of this place that is the bridge, is the isthmus of the world, where you have, the many empires, right? The Roman, the Constantinople at the time,
Byzantium.
the Byzantium. You had the Ottoman Empire, the mixing of cultures, and that is very evident in your music. So I would like to, please tell us, for some of those who've never heard your music, a little bit about you, your background, the information that is then brought into all the instrumentation, the voices, the lyrics. Talk to us about your process and a little bit about your history.
I born in Istanbul and I raised here. And the street sound that I faced in my early ages was so really kind of a pot of different cultures, because in Istanbul when I was like 5 years old, it was the era of like arabesque music comes to a very distinctive version in Istanbul. The people from Eastern just moving to Istanbul. So when I look at my music, I can say that, as you just mentioned, this is a very old culture with more than maybe 4,000 years of different people, empires, cultures, Ionia Persians. This is like layers of different musics, people, and you can hear in my music because I try to look my culture from a perspective, and I try to make the music I really want to listen.
Yeah.
For years, because of the coups and because of the political environment in Turkey, unfortunately, people were afraid of their own cultures. That's so sad, and this is the saddest side effects of the military coups in the world too. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, because you
It's we're seeing it happening now. Check, check,
check.
check, check. 1, 2. You're seeing it happening now in the United States. We're not sure what's going on with this guy. Check 1, 2. Technical difficulties, everybody. We're gonna fix this. Okay, we're back.
Yeah.
Well, so this forces us to see perspectives in a different way constantly. And we're being bombarded by so much propaganda, so much news, shifting landscapes. We think about history from our educational perspective, but we're also being educated constantly by what might be truth or post-truth. We're trying to figure it out as artists, and that's why I think it's very important that you're going deep into this root, into this kind of geographical dynamic that is who you are, talking to the people of where you are from. But also, for me, I do see a universal line. And I mean, because music, no matter the language, music tends to capture capture a universal energy, also an understanding. Like, I don't have to understand a Japanese singer for me to get into the vibe and even the energy. When I first heard Zelda, I didn't understand the words, but I knew she was a badass and she was confrontational and that she probably had a massive following of people going, you know, we're going to change the world.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe in. When I hear your music, I see the movement, right, of the calligraphy that you see in the Hagia Sophia and the ancient masters, and you see all that sweat, hard work, the wars, okay? And so now we're seeing this shifting political landscape very close by.
Yeah.
The wars in Russia and Ukraine are right next to us, right? We're seeing, you know, what's happening in the Levant area for years. This is nothing new. The United States has been selling, the Western has been selling democracy, picturing,
years.
painting this thing like, you know, it's real. But it's never been real, in my opinion. Now it's evident that it's falling apart, it's changing. And so what, as a musician, inspires you? Do you feel that music or art has more power now, less? Is it going to change landscape, inspire minds?
Not just music, but art is the biggest and the most maybe efficient weapon against, you know, that fascist regimes and these dictatorships, I think. That's why they are afraid so much. That's why they try to, you know, erase you and your history from the books and everything. But we can see that, like, artists are the people who are, like, literally writing the right history of their ages.
Yes.
So if we would have the, you know, chance to record musics, for example, like 1,000 years ago, maybe, and of course, if we could have the chance to take away that power from that biggest empires, that people can literally make their own music at homes without borders and everything, then we could maybe hear the real history, because history is also written by man, the white man, and what we know as history is probably a bullshit.
Well, yeah.
So about your point, like, this country has so multiple coups, like military coups, and all of these coups erased the, you know, the real cultural layers of our people, because people are really afraid of accepting themselves. This is not just a war against people, but against the non-living people right now. It's about the, again, history. So I think, yes, the question's answer is we can change it by making art, because people tend to come together around an idea, around the music. And I always say that, like, evil is super connected to each other. And right now we can see that it's weird, but they are more connected than ever. Yeah. Like, the rich guys are coming together with the dictators. They are sponsoring the other guys. And we see a shit show right now.
Yeah.
So the people that sells democracy all around the world is now trying to make something real by using their powers. So the question should be maybe, what is real? Yes, but how can we change the real in our better good, for the better good of ourselves? So I always say that imagination is the biggest thing we can rely on, and we can come together by imagining a better version of this beautiful world.
So art is the front lines of resistance. Mm-hmm. And now I'm very familiar with the topic of a dictatorship. My family's from Cuba. Yeah. We've experienced a 67-year-old dictatorship. Before that, we had many coups as well. And we haven't seen change. But to argue about the selling of democracy from the Western standpoint, we are Cuba in the Western Hemisphere as well. But they sold us something different than democracy. They sold us communist socialist ideology, which was also a big lie for us. And at the beginning, everybody fell in love with this ideology, and Che Guevara and Fidel They assassinated many people. So what they're selling, whether it's this or that, if there's no real truth for the progress of the people, of the progress, then really the ideology doesn't matter, whether it's, on the capitalist or, communist side. It's really when leaders don't listen to the people, right? Which the artists are the people, and the artists are kind of shaping, molding, creating the ideas of how the public will see.
Yeah.
Then art becomes the sort of negotiating table for what can be better, because we're looking for better so that it can be, in a sense, a better reality. And it's interesting because in the earlier talk, I've found it so fascinating when you asked, does reality matter? And I thought, wow. And I really want to talk about some other concepts in your music when you are talking specifically about the Anatolian dragon. I see you as the Anatolian dragon, right? Was that your intent in the title of this album? It's basically, so it's a dragon that comes out of a city that is completely destroyed. And I thought about the analogy of the phoenix rising from the ashes. In my part of the world, we saw this happening in the 1970s and 80s New York, where the Bronx was under fire. And there were political lines drawn around neighborhoods where Black and Latino were not allowed to have loans for properties. And so they were pushed out and, kind of on the edge, on the fringes of society. So that created one reality versus the reality uptown, let's say in the Upper East Side, where everything is different. And, there was an interesting film I want to mention called 80 Blocks from Tiffany's. It's 80 blocks from Tiffany's, the diamond shop, 80 blocks towards the Bronx, where it focuses on the gangs and the turbulent crime and that energy. So there's this split reality. All right. And I want to talk about how in that energy coming out of like the punk scene in New York, perhaps in London, and versus the disco scene or the hip hop scene, what are those influences reaching Turkey, reaching you, and how that energy started translate into your music?
Anatolian Dragon, as we called Anadolu Ejderi, is my latest album's name, which I released 3 years ago. I use that analogy, that metaphor, to describe the raw power inside all of us, actually. It's sleeping, it's mythological, it was always there. Maybe you can say it's not real because it's mythological, but myths are as real as the reality we are living in. Then we can say what is real again. So this was the raw power I was calling to wake up for changing what we are living right now in Turkey, in the world. So, as we just mentioned, like democracy is now collapsing in a way because they sold us for years, but now they are facing the ugly part of it, because if something is maybe can be sold or can be by people, then we should ask about this. Hey, is it real too? So I think we are facing the changes of reality right now in the face. So this is the biggest change of all time that we can see in our lifetime, maybe. So AI is coming, which I love very much. At least it's now sneaking into the lives of us, but I think it will be a tool for everybody in a sense. But Anatolian Dragon was maybe the last album I did without AI. So, like, coming to your question, in Turkey, there are most of the people now living is having different problems about the politics, about economics, about art, about free speech. So I think the most weird part is the evil, we can call, is so equipped by the sense of doing everything with power, we believe that we cannot change it by coming together. That's the thing they just made us believe. So Anatolian Dragon album was a call for changing it by coming together, by moving together, by believing something that we consistently dream together. So I think what we need right now is just like the power of the world do it. We can come together and change it just by weaving our own reality, because we don't have the courage yet. And my art is always reshaping the idea of reality, because it's weird that we are living in a world with different dualities, different perspectives. Even one mind inside of our brains can change their own realities in different periods. So perception is also the key word here. And this album was telling about exactly this.
What I really wonder also is, are we really mythological? I mean, you're standing right in front of me. You are the Anatolian dragon, in my perception. When I hear the music, you're roaring. You're bringing all this energy, 4,000 years. When people listen to it now or in the future, even after we're gone, even after my art remains and I'm gone, the way we even look at the past and we see the ruins of Rome, was that mythology? Was that real? There's the proof. So what we are doing, this reaction to our environment, to me it's not mythology anymore. We are at the front lines and we are making this an important factor of resistance. And with that I want to reach back to something we were talking about dreaming, the consistent dream. And that without the dreams we don't have this balance. And it's also like, you can dream awake mostly, right? And create while dreaming. Can we talk about this idea that you were telling me about, the consistent dreaming? And what are your thoughts behind this?
Consistent Fantasies Reality is the name of my third album, İstikrarla Hakikattir. This name came up from a big loss and a trauma in my life. Like 10 years ago, I lost my mother, and she was my best friend, and it was a very quick and unexpected time. So after that, one day when I was thinking about, I lost her, she's not here, but now I feel what she would do when I say this, and what she would laugh at when I do that. So it was like a brainstorming, of course. So I thought that, okay, the only thing that is different from her existence is her body. But except of that, everything I know about her, all the memories, all the beautiful moments, all the anger and worst moments of our lives together was there. So my brain leads me to the idea of consistent dreaming is the reality. So after that, like I'm so into, by the way, quantum physics too. So you know what? It's very weird. When you look at quantum physics, the reality totally changes. The molecules, the atoms, just they're acting totally different from what we know here. So this is maybe one of the biggest inventions of all time, that reality differs from here to the microcosmos and micro reality of the quantum field. So I realized that the reality we are living is also an illusion. This is weird, because this was like a moment of euphoria, or kind of I don't remember the exact word of it in English, but it was something I felt with all my cells. So this is power. This is what I call consistent fantasies reality. So like being here with all you guys, breathing, talking about reality, trying to be yourself in that weird world. This is crazy. And
it's completely abstract.
yeah, it's surreal from if you can look at a little, like zoom out from here, you see that this is also super unreal. So what we call real is consistency. You wake up, you see your hands, it's not changed from yesterday to today, so you say, okay, this is my hand. But like one day if you wake up and you see a totally different, maybe you become a bug, like the thing that we know from the book, so you can totally say, okay, now the reality has changed. But I think this is a little illusion that the, you can call it like computer game we are into, the simulation we are into is tricking us to remember that, or to accept that this is real. So, yeah.
I mean, I was really touched when I was speaking with you and this term came up of consistent dreaming, and this made me feel personally connected to this conversation. Some of you may know this, but some of you may not know that in 2021, I was severely sick with COVID-19, and I was in a coma because of it for 4 months. I had a stroke. I nearly died. It's by miracle that I'm sitting here speaking with you about dreams. When I woke up from the coma, I nearly killed myself because my reaction was to take out the tubes. And it was an emergency. They put me back under. A week later, I wake up again. Now I'm tied to the bed. And my reality was, I'm in JFK. I just landed at the airport. My doctor is the pilot. My nurse is the stewardess. I'm in an airplane. I just landed from Australia in New York. I'm convinced of that. And I remained convinced of this for weeks in the hospital. I remained convinced that I was a hotel owner, that I had hotels in Hong Kong, Australia, Japan, Havana, Miami, New York, and I was a business guy with my brother.
Wow.
And that the mafia was after us to steal our business and assassinate us. And we had just escaped the triads from Hong Kong to Seoul, Seoul to Tokyo. And friends along the way had helped me. The doctors told my brother, don't reveal to Jose, that reality is not what's believable. This is his reality. We need to work with him. Okay, when you're in a coma for 4 months, and in this very experimental phase of what happened with COVID-19, they were using AI to monitor my heartbeat, to administer the drug painkillers that made me hallucinate, possibly cause dreams. There's no way to know. So this reality was my reality. I was so convinced. And actually, as they worked over a period of 1 month, 2 months, and I start to see photographs of my life, me as a child, with my brother, with my dog, with my parents, my life as an artist, and I start to see this other version that I didn't remember versus my hotel reality, I start to feel the heartbreak. Who's that person? I'm losing this person. And I start crying, and it was very emotional. And then my brother had the brilliant idea to bring me my little record player and bring the music. So it brings me back to this conversation of the power of music. Playing music, seeing photographs, the music automatically started bringing memories that even the photographs couldn't bring.
Wow.
It really took me back to my parents and stories about my grandparents. And then it was very emotional. You know, by the way, I couldn't walk. I couldn't swallow. I couldn't even drink water. So the physical process, it really connects me to your mentioning the consistency of waking up and seeing your hands. But for me, when I finally woke up, a month after waking up and seeing my body, I was a different Jose. I was 60 pounds lighter, so that's 30 kilos. I looked different. My beard, I looked like, you know, Fidel Castro, right? And I didn't recognize myself. My reality had shifted. The world's reality had shifted. People would come to visit at the hospital, only family, were wearing full suits and hazard suits. I couldn't see their face. I didn't know what my doctor looked like for a year after because of the mask. So my shifting reality was a very physical one, but this dream kept showing up. Even now, I have dreams from the hotels. And, you know, if you guys are in the hotel business, let's talk because we can have a lot of ideas. And we can perform, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to expand on this, you know, sort of diverse realities and inspiration that comes from dreaming and consistency versus the, you know, the fractured dream. Because sometimes we dream and then the system stops the dream. It could be a political system, it could be a health crisis, it could be an economical crisis. So how do we persist? How do we continue?
That story is so harsh and so big. You know, years ago, I had some lucid dreamings for days and months, and I studied that. I mean, I worked on having lucid dreaming. You guys maybe know what lucid dreaming is. It's like knowing that you are in a dream while dreaming, and I just searched for the, you know, the details, the tactics, how to make it. And then I started doing. And it was so weird, but so beautiful because I literally had another life there. Like, I was drinking coffee, I was talking with the people I want to talk, I was just having fun with, you know, things. I was flying always. So one day after months, I started to wake up very, you know, like not sleeping all day, kinda super tired. And I read about that, and it was saying, okay, someday you cannot undo being lucid dreamer. So this was horrible for me because, you know, lucid dreaming is something that doesn't let your subconsciousness to forget or to let and release the heavy burden of being existent. So I was like waking up super tired, and I was trying to forget about making lucid dreaming. And someday, I mean, my subconscious, thanks to the power of whatever, I forgot the lucid dreaming. But my point is this. So I was having a life over there. Like, really. I mean, if I could, or I would do that for years, maybe I would marry there, having kids, you know, like, I don't know, whatever.
How do you feel about that? Another husband? No, maybe not.
Maybe I would marry again with you.
It has to be you. We'll
You
find
don't
an
trust.
agreement.
Wow. Okay, we will talk about that later. We have an issue now. So this is weird because, you know, the only difference between this life now we are facing was high. So it was like, it was called dream. That's all. And by the way, people normally like sleeps 8 hours, 9 hours, which is kind of half of the day, you can say. So another half of the day was consistently lived by purpose, I mean on purpose, and I was having another reality there. So this is also another thing for me to understand, hey, reality is so connected with consistency.
Did it help you bring all the lucid dreaming into your work as a substance for the real resistance that you're living as an artist? I mean, your work has been controversial. It has sparked some interest internationally. It's been spoken about something that made maybe some words that maybe made people look at you in a certain way like a rebel. And so tell me about that. Tell me about how you found this connection from the lucid dreams and the realities, how it ends up in your music as the music being movement for you.
When you look at my songs, my lyrics, it's obvious that I have some problems with reality. So it was always, almost always like that from my childhood. I was a very melancholic child when I was 5 years old, writing poems about existence, actually. This is weird, but I can say that to be alive, to exist in this world is always surreal for me.
Yeah.
So when like Demet and all the crew invited me to this beautiful festival, I was like, okay, I'm in the right position now because you know I'm literally having some weird solutions about being alive, and art is my way of surviving in this surreal world, actually, because you can do anything there. You are free as a ghost.
Yeah.
You can do anything in your art, and nobody can say anything. Of course, Turkey is another dimension here, as politically, if you do anything you dream of, things can change, not in a good way, of course. But you know what? Now the world is going there too. So I'm happy about like facing that shit altogether. Because Western cultures always told us, I just talked with you about that in a couple of minutes ago, like, oh guys, this is democracy, you shouldn't vote this guy. And we were like, okay, but we didn't. So now they are facing something that they didn't vote for. So yeah, art is my ship to survive in a sea full of, full of realities.
And also absurdities and uncertainties. Like we don't know what's going to happen.
I love that part.
Next.
My ship is the absurdity.
Okay.
The reality is the sea.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the absurdity is saving me. That's the point.
I've always thought about this term in Latin, reductio ad absurdum, a reduction to absurdity. Because I always see the world as so surreal. And I kept thinking, well, as an artist, we have to reduce from the absurdity. And in a sense, I think what I mean by that is all the absurdity around, I sort of put it into the vortex of my art studio and into the painting and into anything really that we organize. And this festival is a really great example of that. It's like bringing all these minds together, all this inspiration. To take away from the absurdity, to have conversations in a diplomatic, understanding platform, right? That we can really divulge information and talk honestly and openly. Yesterday I spoke with an artist that was really inspired by Cuba as a revolutionary place. And I bust the bubble, in a sense, to talk truth to what I experience as someone from there. And I think that's the dialogue that's more important now. It's making things borderless, being able to communicate with people from elsewhere, the other, so that we can understand and go there. Because often the media portrays this dangerous place, don't go. It's the wrong time to go. Don't cross that line. But I think artists have always been the first to step into the danger zone, into the area that's supposed to be, a bit dodgy, as they say, so that we can expand on the conversation. And so I'm really grateful to have been able to have this platform with you.
It's my pleasure. And what you say just reminds me of the thing that, like, don't go outside. Don't go outside at night because it's dangerous. And I'm thinking the danger of the night. So they're talking about some men, right? So this is also from a man's mouth, like, don't go. So you create a problem with your hands, and then you say, don't go outside at night in the streets, blah, blah. So I think the same thing happens here too. They first create the problem, then they say, don't go to these places of the world. So we should be courageous enough to see the problem, not the result. I think our time's up.
I think, we're thank you.
Thank you. So lovely to talk with you.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, we'd love to hear your questions, and please, let's continue. Anyone?
Hi. So, a very fascinating conversation. I wanted to ask, like, usually when like we create art, we're like escaping from reality, but I feel like for you two, it was a way to come back to reality because you were in like a fantastical, like world, you know, with like the dreaming and like the coma and everything. Do you think you would have been like stuck in that like alternative reality if you didn't like put it out? Like through music or something?
Thank you. Great question. Uh, I don't feel like a lunatic, like believing in another reality and like telling the others that this is the only one. Actually, this is a kind of resistance against the boring reality that the power create for us, that they don't ask to, which they say they ask by, let us vote. By the way, it doesn't change anything, I believe. So they are creating a reality by calling it democracy. They are creating a reality that the wars have a meaning. This is so patriarchal, by the way. I think that's the problem, that the world is ruling by some white man, super patriarchal, and creating one reality as a religion. So I think all these words, all these things are, some beliefs in our heads which they create. And it's like prisons that we shouldn't escape. And we don't even know that escaping is a possibility. So my reality is a contra reality to the boring and destructive patriarchal power that is ruling our country and our world. And it's not kind of like a new age shit and let's believe then it can be real. No, I'm not talking about that. Yes, believing is a part of it, but I'm talking about coming together, being one, dreaming another reality, which can be anything, any art piece you see anywhere. So we can be the living things in someone's painting too. We don't know yet. We can be a simulation. This can be a computer game. So I think we should expand the understanding of what we are living right now. That's my point.
I really love what you were speaking about interdependence there for a moment, is the fact that it's not that we should be one. It's the thing is we are already one. And something that, you guys said in the previous talk about talking to trees. I really, really connected with that because, to answer your question about whether I would have stayed in that reality or come to this one of the things that I kept, kind of dealing with was these images of my lungs in the x-rays. And when I looked at the images, how much the veins looked like branches of trees, but also to the roots and the mycelium of trees, and how this, sort of natural world internet connects everything. And this is real. This is like a physiological, it's no longer something that like I imagined. But this dream is something that happened because of an actual political experience that we all went through collectively in the world, right? The COVID-19 took us all into one collective experience. That's really rare, right? We're living a post-pandemic, still we're in a post-pandemic, very serious moment that everything that's happening now is directly linked to the history, but deeply to the way the pandemic affected and sort of created this turbulent experience. So there is no distinction or differentiation from my dream reality or this so-called reality. It's all actually one that's happening constantly in your minds, in the poetry that comes out of your mind, in every footstep, in every song, in every painting, in every touch, in every kiss, in every tree, in every fish, in every dog, in every cat. Everything you see It's all happening, you know? And so the way to think about AI is not even the point, actually. And whether you use it to make art or you don't, that doesn't make it less or more important. And it doesn't make it quality or less quality. The fact is that it's coming, it's happening, and that there's no differentiation. Okay? And so how can we collaborate and continue to make it somewhat sustainable and better? And for me, the main question about the so-called reality is, are we going to live or are we going to survive? That for me is really one of the most integral questions.
That's a great point. And you know, actually, when I say being one, it's obviously telling to act like one. This story is very charming. You know, in a forest, when, for example, a tree is attacked by the bugs, I read somewhere else, like the tree is telling the other trees from the roots and all the
mycelium.
Yeah, that telling them, hey, I got attacked, watch out. And the other trees are like making something.
They send nutrients to help the other trees.
Exactly, and they protect themselves. So this is a collective act.
Yeah.
Like knowing the reality, knowing the problem, knowing the truth, and letting the others know and acting collectively. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think we have a few more minutes for a few more questions. Please, one more question.
Hey guys, I wanted to ask about you're talking a lot about sort of the space that exists between ideas and and materials, and I have a question about, you mentioned Roman ruins, and 2 sentences later we're talking about how your next album will inevitably make use of AI. So the current estimates is something along the lines of 1,000 AI-generated songs per hour being uploaded to Spotify. So I guess my question is, understanding that we are already very much in a minority in the music sphere, like what is the, and I'm trying not to be totally pessimistic here, but what is the point of making music and uploading it and continuing in this paradigm when that fight is already completely over?
Resistance, always resistance. You have to be in the front line. And that's what art is, because why else,
But the
in my opinion.
the front line is owned by white patriarchs.
Not necessarily.
In private jets. So
only if you allow them to own you.
But they do own you.
No, they don't own me.
No.
You can speak for yourself. They don't own me. I mean, they own the airplane that I'm going to fly back to New York, and that's for sure.
And again, I want to be wrong here, so please take it from that point of view. But the latest terms and conditions from Spotify literally stipulate this. They own anything you put up there, and they can do anything they want.
So
with it.
another app will come out someday, maybe in 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever. But
they don't own the interpretation of who's listening to your music.
Exactly.
This is my point. So how do you think about that? Because that's how they're listening to it. And so what is the point of making it?
Actually, I don't do art. I don't do anything I do by thinking about the results of it. So first of all, we can start from there. Like, I do it because I should. This is my starting point. I do it, then I'm alive. Or I do it, then I am, in the most brief sense. So I don't care about the consequences. As an artist, musician, we cannot calculate that. Then it becomes a formula. Then it becomes something we are so much in control of. We do it. Just do it. Explode whatever you have. Just put it there and forget about the consequences, because this is what art should be, I guess. Of course, I have some ideas what's going to happen next, but this is beyond my own imagination. mostly whatever I imagine, which I imagine big, mostly, it happens more than that. So I think the art, the music, whatever you produce, whatever you do, it's nothing to do with that people, that guy, because we will eventually find another medium to share these.
It's a question of ownership. Also makes me think about the injustice of what you're talking about. Kind of talks about injustice. As a visual artist, I make paintings. The collector buys it. Okay, when I die, the collector dies. He doesn't own it. I don't own it, but it still has my name. But then it sells through auctions, and I get no money. My estate maybe gets no money. So, is it money we're talking about? The ownership for me, at one point, you know, you have to survive, you have to eat. But really, the art is beyond that because it's influencing.
Yeah.
And it's changing perception. And the perception belongs to the individual. So they win by the time that they have more money, more power. But we win in the long run. Rome's still there. Egypt's still there. We're still studying. We're still learning. And that's how I have to think about it. Otherwise, I'm going to jump out the window like in the movie.
You know, I totally agree. And money can buy things, but some things are not sold. So this is one of them. That's all.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was great.
So lovely to meet you.
Likewise.